Sweethearts, how are you? Welcome to this session. I have got more literary theory questions and I will give you cultural studies tomorrow. Hello, everybody. Are you ready? Guys, it is amazing to revise like this, isn't it, guys? Okay, we are starting with the first question. Here is your first question, guys. People have joined. In the book, The Implied Reader. Who wrote The Implied Reader? Today it is all about theorists, okay? Answers are all theorists. In the book, The Implied Reader, Dash argues that the literary work has two poles. The literary work has two poles. The artistic pole is the text created by the author. The aesthetic pole refers to the realization of the text accomplished by the reader. The artistic pole and the aesthetic pole. The text created by the author and the text created by the reader. Who talked about it? Literary work has two poles. Thank you, Soumya. Who talked about the two poles of the literary work? In the book, The Implied Reader. Artistic pole is the text created by the author. The aesthetic pole refers to the text created by the reader. Yes, guys, it is Wolfgang Iser. It is Wolfgang Iser. Now, Dash used the term aesthetic distance. Dash used the term aesthetic distance to characterize the discrepancy or the conflict between an already established horizon of expectations. What do you mean by horizon of expectations? Horizon of expectations means in every age, the readers expect something from the text. So, in every age, there are some expectations of the readers. The conflict or discrepancy between the horizon of expectations and the appearance of a new work that does not conform to this expectation. Who used the term aesthetic distance? No talking in class. Pay attention, children. Children, you are all talking in class. Pay attention. Bolo. Who talked about aesthetic distance? To characterize the difference or discrepancy between the horizon of expectation and the new work that does not conform to it. Bolo. Bolo. Rahila, you are talking too much. You write the names of those who are talking. You be the class leader. Write the names of those who are talking. It is Hans Robert Jauss. Hans Robert Jauss used the term aesthetic distance. The discrepancy between the horizon of expectations and the appearance of a new work that does not conform to the expectation. Is there a text in this class? What is the subtitle? The Authority of Interpretive Communities. Is there a text in this class? who discusses the role of institutions rather than that of linguistic structures in the construction of meaning. Who said it is not linguistic structures but institutions and community that creates meaning? Is there a text in this class, The Authority of Interpretive Communities, who discusses the role of social institutions rather than linguistic structures in the construction of meaning? Yes, it is Stanley Fish in Is There a Text in This Class? He said, it is not language that creates meaning, it is the social institutions that create meaning. ठीक है. For Fish, meaning is not contained in the text but created within the dash. Okay, Shazia. God bless you, Shazia. For Stanley Fish, meaning is not contained in the text but created within the dash. Meaning is not contained in the text but created within the community. Interpretive communities, है ना? Interpretive communities. Fish talked about the community, not reader's experience. Fish talked about interpretive communities. Ta-da-dang, you are right. Stanley Fish first talked about affective stylistics. Then Stanley Fish talked about interpretive communities. For Lacan, the dash principle takes the form of the father who threatens the male child's Oedipal desire for the mother with the punishment of castration. Do you dare to desire your mother? I will castrate you, says the father. What is this called? Is it pleasure principle, reality principle, symbolic principle? वो क्या principle होता है? None of these principle, वो तो होगा. None of these principle ही होगा. बोलो. For Lacan, which principle takes the form of the father? The father desires the male child's Oedipal desire for the mother. The father desires नहीं, the father threatens. अरे symbolic principle कुछ नहीं होता. It is reality principle, babies. Symbolic principle मैंने बनाया, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. It is reality principle. In the semiotic stage, the child has only pleasure. In the semiotic stage before language, the child has only pleasure. It is in reality principle, the father threatens the male child. Disho. Reality principle, did you understand? Symbolic principle नहीं होता, ठीक है? मैंने बनाया था आपको confuse करने के लिए. All right. Dash is a concept created by Deleuze and Guattari. वो क्या होगा? As a response to the preconceived shortcomings in the basic premises of psychoanalytic practice. Psychoanalytic practice में कुछ पंगा है. Psychoanalytic practice has some shortcomings. Psychoanalytic practice in എന്തോ പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. So, Deleuze and Guattari created a new concept. Is it rhizome? Is it schizoanalysis? Is it minority? None of these is the concept. I know. मैं बोलूंगी D. My answer is D. Soumya. Psychoanalysis, if it is not working, you will only make schizoanalysis, Soumya. It is not rhizome. Rhizome कुछ और होता है. Rhizome means meaning is created like this horizontally, like internet. Everywhere meaning. Not linear like tree, but everywhere meaning. No, minority is minority literature of Kafka. That means minority people writing in a majority language. That is minority literature. Deleuze and Guattari talked about minority literature. Example, Kafka. Minority people writing in a majority language. I am minority, but I am writing in majority language. That is minority literature. Rhizome is like ching, 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 everywhere meaning. Everywhere internet is sprouting. Schizoanalysis is a kind of replacement for psychoanalysis. Ta-da-dang! Did you get it, guys, my sweethearts? You should not go wrong now, TK. Lacan maintained throughout his career. मुझे बोला था, I know. मुझे बोला था. Lacan maintained throughout his career that desire is the desire of the other. Desire is the desire of the other. What does this mean? इसका क्या मतलब? The child always desires what belongs to others. हाँ, वो तो होता है. I was like that. When I was a child, I wanted other people's pencils, other people's toffees. The child always desires what belongs to others. ये होगा क्या? The child's sense of the self is the result of his desire to identify with the images of the others. The child's sense of the self is the result of his desire to identify with the images of the others. वो होगा क्या? The child has other people's desires, not his own. वो तो होगा. मुझे तो ऐसा ही था. When I was child, I did not have any of my own desires. I had other people's desires. A or C should be the answer. अरे सब लोग B क्यों बोल रहे हो? A नहीं था क्या तुम्हारे जिंदगी में? Why are you saying B? I think this is the answer. Of course, this is the answer. The child's sense of the self. I am Kalyani. That sense is the result of his desire to identify with the images of others. The child's identity is formed based on his desire to identify the images of others. B is the answer. B is the answer. Sahi bola. B is the answer. Okay. New Historicism emphasizes the dash nature of all texts and looks for echoes. New Historicism is looking. देखो. New Historicism is looking for echoes of law, religion, politics, medicine and other discourses in the literary texts of an age. ये तो एक literary text है, ठीक है? In this literary text, is there law? Is there religion? Is there politics? New Historicism is looking, and New Historicism believes that all texts are. Ta-da-dang! Is it intertextual, textual, divided, arbitrary? Arbitrary देखते ही कुछ लोग बोलेंगे डी गलत है. न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म में कोई आर्बिट्ररी नहीं होता. न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म में it is not intertextual, it is textual. Everything is constructed. History is constructed. Everything is textual. Intertextual नहीं है. New Historicism is reading साइड बाय साइड पैरेलल रीडिंग, लेकिन वो लोग इंटरटेक्सुअलिटी के बारे में नहीं बोले. इंटरटेक्सुअलिटी इज पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म. इट इज टेक्सचुअल. समझ रहे हो? लगता है इट इज इंटरटेक्सुअलिटी, लेकिन इंटरटेक्सुअलिटी के बारे में न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म ने नहीं बोला ना. न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म एम्फसाइजेस द टेक्सचुअल नेचर ऑफ ऑल टेक्स्ट. All texts are constructed. All texts are textual, means constructed. All texts have echoes of religion, लॉ, पॉलिटिक्स, मेडिसिन, हाँ ये सब तो है इसमें. दिस इज कंस्ट्रक्टेड. ठीक है, गॉट इट. विल यू रिमेंबर टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द 1980s? अरे मुझे क्या पता, मैं तो पैदा ही नहीं हुई थी. आई वॉज बॉर्न इन 1990s. मुझे क्या पता क्या हुआ 1980s में. देखते हैं फिर भी. टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द 1980s, Greenblatt and others began to use the term dash in place of new historicism. Instead of new historicism, Stephen Greenblatt began to use the term, another term. Instead of new historicism, he used the term. What is the meaning? The study of the collective making of distinct cultural practices. Cultural practices are forming. The collective making of cultural practices and inquiry into the relations among these practices. कैसे होता है cultural practices? What are the relations in the cultural practices? What is the term that Greenblatt used for new historicism? Is it cultural poetics, cultural materialism, cultural studies? None of these. अरे ये none of these terms सब का ही घुस जाता है. क्यों? None of these किसने बोला? None of these तो नहीं है. It is cultural poetics. Did you like today's pagal style of teaching? I'm going to write a paper. How madness is important in teaching. Real or feigned madness, like in revenge tragedy. Real or feigned madness and teaching. One paper I'm going to write. What do you say? Because whenever I go mad, you people, wow, we understand. मुझे शक है. Because if when I go mad, if you like it, maybe it is because you are also. नहीं बोलूंगी. I won't say. The founding moment of post-colonial theory. What is the founding moment of post-colonial theory? It was the launch of the journal. Ta-da-dang! Which journal? ये journal होगा शायद. The founding moment of post-colonial theory was the launch of this journal in 1966. Which initiated the first global alliance of the peoples of the 3 continents against imperialism. People of 3 continents are joining together against imperialism. And it all happened in one journal. Which is that journal? Is it Postcolonial Studies? The Journal of Postcolonialism? Is it 3 Worlds? Is it tricontinental? Is it Postcolonial Studies? Is it the Journal of Postcolonialism? Is it 3 Worlds? Is it tricontinental? Journal of it is tricontinental और ABC मैंने बनाया था. I'm touched. I'm so happy because मैंने कुछ पागलपन बनाया, मैंने कुछ बकवास लिखा और people are choosing that. I'm so touched. I'm so happy. Thank you. It is so great because मैंने कुछ बकवास लिखा और सब लोग चूज कर रहे हैं ABC. Thank you very much. I'm so happy. The founding moment of post-colonial theory is the launch of the journal Tricontinental in 1966. ठीक है? In the Political Unconscious. Very important book by Frederick Jameson. In the Political Unconscious by Frederick Jameson. He employed what he called dash, which means a criticism aware of its own status as ideology. मुझे इतना हंसाओगे तो मैं पढ़ा नहीं पाऊंगी. I am telling you. If you make me laugh so much, I won't be able to teach. In the political unconscious, Frederick Jameson employed what he called dash. Is it dialectical criticism, ideological criticism, ontological criticism? None of the above. Bolo. मेरा बकवास चूज मत करो प्लीज. In the political unconscious, Frederick Jameson employed what he called, मेरा बकवास चूज मत करो प्लीज. सुनो गाइस, इट इज डायलेक्टिकल क्रिटिसिज्म. ठीक है, यहां आइडियोलॉजी है सो मैंने बना दिया आइडियोलॉजिकल क्रिटिसिज्म. ऐसा कोई क्रिटिसिज्म नहीं होता. ठीक है, आइडियोलॉजिकल क्रिटिसिज्म इज नॉट देयर. अरे एस इंग्लिश सही बोला था और फिर गलत बना दिया. सब लोगों ने बोला आइडियोलॉजिकल एंड एस इंग्लिश बाय मधुसूदन सर इज सेइंग नो इट इज आइडियोलॉजिकल. सब लोगों ने आइडियोलॉजिकल लिखा. सुनो गाइस, डायलेक्टिकल क्रिटिसिज्म जेम्सन, वेरी सीरियस. Other people in Facebook, in YouTube will think this is such a bad class. She is talking to those live people and we don't like it. Dialectical criticism, Jameson. Ontological criticism होता है. Ontological criticism किसका है? John Crow Ransom. Ideological criticism is बकवास. कल्याणी is बकवास. ऐसा कोई क्रिटिसिज्म नहीं होता. ठीक है. In the political unconscious, Frederick Jameson employed what he called dialectical criticism. Suno, everybody, it's serious. Dialectical criticism means Jameson ne bola it is a criticism aware of its own status as ideology. Criticism becomes ideology. All right. Okay, next question. Opposed to humanist Marxism, Dash blended structuralism and Marxism in his structural Marxism, which held Marxism as a science that examined objective structures. Marxism has objective structures. Marxism, he developed what is called structural Marxism, opposed to humanist Marxism. इसके पहले था ह्यूमनिस्ट मार्क्सिज्म, ह्यूमन बीइंग का मार्क्सिज्म. अभी तो नहीं रहा. अभी तो मार्क्सिज्म बन गया साइंस. और मार्क्सिज्म इज यूजिंग ऑब्जेक्टिव स्ट्रक्चर्स. किसने बोला ये सब? हु कंबाइंड स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म एंड मार्क्सिज्म इन स्ट्रक्चरल मार्क्सिज्म? इज इट लुई अल्थूजर, पियर मैशरे, फ्रेडरिक जेम्सन, टेरी ईगल्टन? आई वॉन्ट प्ले विथ यू ऑल. सब लोग सही बोल रहे हो. क्यों? मेरा बकवास क्यों नहीं चुना? सब लोग क्यों सही बोल रहे हो? मैं नहीं प्ले. आई वोंट प्ले. मैं नहीं खेलूंगी तुम्हारे साथ. सभी ने बोला लुई अल्थूजर. कट्टी. Louis Althusser blended structuralism and Marxism in structural Marxism and held that Marxism is not humanist, it is a science. It examines objective structures. Full marks to YouTube babies. YouTube babies, full marks. Everybody said correctly. African American critic Dash, कौन होगा? Has critiqued postmodernism. African American critic है जो कोई, critiqued postmodernism for ignoring the work of black writers and intellectuals. क्यों black writers को ignore किया postmodernism ने? Postmodernism ignores black writers and intellectuals. क्यों? किसने बोला? Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, Franz Fanon, W.E.B. Du Bois. Bolo. Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, Franz Fanon, W.E.B. Du Bois. One day I want to teach like a baby. Full-time baby. What do you say? I have a baby language also. I know how to speak in baby language like this. African American critic कौन है? Who critiqued postmodernism for? अरे Franz Fanon तो African American नहीं है. Franz Fanon is not African American. अरे it is bell hooks. क्या है यार? Bell hooks critiqued postmodernism for ignoring the work of black writers and intellectuals. In Modernity, an incomplete project, who classifies the poststructuralists Derrida and Foucault under aesthetic modernity? Derrida and Foucault are modernists. They are young conservatives. Their work is not complete. Their work constitutes a totalizing perspective. सहनाज सब लोग मेरा चैनल ही छोड़ देंगे, अनसब्सक्राइब करेंगे. नहीं, मैं नहीं कर सकती. I have to be serious teacher because in YouTube everybody comes to study, not to have fun. In Modernity, an incomplete project, किसने बोला, किसने लिखा? Is it Husserl, Habermas, Heidegger, Hölderlin? बोलो ना. In Modernity, an incomplete project, किसने क्लासिफाई किया पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट Derrida and Foucault को? Derrida and Foucault are modernists and young conservatives. किसने बोला? It is Habermas. That is right, guys. It is Habermas. Habermas wrote famous essay, Modernity, an incomplete project, where he criticized Derrida and Foucault. You are conservative. You are like modernists. Yours is a totalizing perspective. Shashikala, I said no. Okay. According to Dash, a perfect model for all the orders of simulation is Disneyland. After studying, after all the slides, I will tell you my story like a baby, okay? Will you listen to me? I know 10 people will remain, everybody will leave. According to Dash, a perfect model for all the orders of simulation is Disneyland. Disneyland is presented as imaginary in order to make us believe that the rest is real. Disneyland is looking like imaginary, fake, in order to make us think that the rest is real, whereas the rest of America is also fake. That is what Baudrillard said. Baudrillard said, the rest of America is also fake. My name is Siddharth. I gave this question because from the question you will learn, even though the answer you already know. This is important. Question is important, na? Disneyland is presented as fake so that the rest of America appears real. ठीक है? It is in the famous preface to the book, The Postmodern Condition, that Dash defines most clearly his understanding of the postmodern. The book itself is about the status of contemporary knowledge. In the preface to the book, The Postmodern Condition, who defines the postmodern? The book itself is about the status of contemporary knowledge. Yes, I teach and delight. Yes. I teach and delight like a classical playwright. Voila. It is, of course, Lyotard. Lyotard wrote the book, The Postmodern Condition. In the preface to the book, he defined postmodernism. The rest of the book is about contemporary literature. You want me to explain previous question? ठीक है. So now guys, you go to America. In America, Disneyland is there. Disneyland appears fake because they want us to think that the rest of America is not fake. They want us to think that the rest of America is real. Disneyland is hyper-reality. Did you understand? Disneyland appears to be fake because they want us to think like the rest of America is not fake. But everything in America is fake. That is what Baudrillard is saying. Will you please like the video, everybody? Will you like the video, everybody? You are not sharing with your friends, are you? Now, who used the metaphor dismemberment of Orpheus to denote the fragmentation of postmodern culture? Who used the metaphor dismemberment of Orpheus to denote the fragmentation of postmodern culture? Raj and Sanjana, beware, Rahila is writing names of people who are talking. Who used the metaphor of dismemberment of Orpheus? That is right. It is Ihab Hassan. Ihab Hassan used the metaphor of dismemberment of Orpheus. Orpheus is dismembered. All his organs have become dismembered. It is like the fragmentation of postmodernism. Dash regarded postmodern literature as the literature of exhaustion. Postmodern literature is the literature of exhaustion. Who said? John Barth, Thomas Pynchon, Salman Rushdie. None of them. Who wrote the essay Literature of Exhaustion? Oh, class leader is angry. Who wrote the essay Literature of Exhaustion? Ta-da-dang! Sabne mera bakwas chuna. Everybody is choosing my bakwas. It is John Barth. John Barth wrote the essay Literature of Exhaustion. After that, he wrote Literature of Replenishment. Literature of Exhaustion and Literature of Replenishment, essays by John Barth regarding postmodernism. Will you remember? Will you remember? Dash interpreted postmodernism in the essay Against Interpretation. Who interpreted postmodernism in the essay Against Interpretation? Angela McRobbie, Susie Taru, Susan Sontag. None of them. Bolo, bolo. Who interpreted postmodernism in the essay Against Interpretation? It is Susan Sontag. Susan Sontag. Are my KEA babies here? Are my Karnataka exam people here? Are they studying? I am doing it for them. HSST syllabus में कुछ എന്തെങ്കിലും മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാവും. HSST notes കുറച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടേ ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. Dash compared postmodernism to late capitalism. Dash compared postmodernism to late capitalism. That is easy. It is Frederick Jameson. Frederick Jameson wrote the essay Postmodernism as the cultural logic of late capitalism. Postmodernism as the cultural logic of late capitalism. So that is the end for today, guys. मैं बहुत थक गई. Can I stop? Thank you. Good night. I feel so happy and refreshed because of your love. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Good night. See you tomorrow for cultural studies. Okay. Ta-da-dang. Kalyani Wallat is going.